I'm here with Jennifer Lin. She's the CEO of Delivering Happiness and also the Chief Happiness Officer at DH. And we're here at the trailer park that Tony Hsieh lives at. It's his home, and it's also a place where it kind of inspired the whole movement of Delivering Happiness, because he wrote a book that was a bestseller, amazing book that everyone has to check out, called Delivering Happiness. In fact, we had an event at Tony's place, and he said, nobody's allowed to meet me unless they read the book first, because they always ask so many questions first, you know?
That's one of the reasons why I wrote it.
Is it?
Same time.
Well, it's so funny because everyone always asks him questions, and I guess he always has like a Ray response. For example, yesterday we were Life is Beautiful, and then he had his pre-written schedule called the Tony schedule, and he just texted it to everyone so everyone knows where he is, as opposed to, oh, I'm here.
Totally.
You know?
He's big on simplification and minimizing life, you know, like complications.
Well, I think it's really interesting because I've been in the self-improvement business for a long time, and Delivering Happiness is becoming this powerful self-improvement business for other businesses to learn how to improve their productivity, increase their retention, and using it through the message of delivering happiness, not just for businesses, but also through any kind of really powerful organizations. I was asking yesterday what you think was the most powerful thing that you're really passionate about right now, and you said you were doing it for the leadership of the country of Dubai. And I thought that was truly amazing. But I guess I would love to have you talk to our audience about what you're doing with Delivering Happiness, what it's all about, and how it could help them.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for the intro. And so basically, like when we worked on the book, it was like 2010, launched the book, did this crazy bus tour cross country, and we both thought we were just gonna check it off, like, of the things to do in life. But lo and behold, there was a demand for happiness in the world that we didn't quite expect to be, you know, that response. We sold like 700,000 books, 20 languages, and for me, it just felt like there was a tipping point for what happiness could mean, not just in life, but obviously with the Zappos story, like how do you actually implement that in a company? So essentially happiness is a business model. And so that's when we decided to evolve it into a company. It's actually kind of funny because there was no formal decision. Tony looked at me one day, he's like, you know, I realized I never asked you if you wanted to do this. And I'm like, and I'm already, you know, full in it. And I'm like, thanks. I'm like, well, thanks for thinking of it now. But yeah, so we just decided to evolve it into what we call ourselves. It's a non-traditional consulting company, so we would call ourselves coach consultants. So it's a combination of coaching and consulting, because having been a consultant before, it's really prescriptive, like here's what you need to do. Whereas with us, we really want to co-create what that culture can mean. And so a lot of people are like, oh, how can we be like Zappos? And we say, that's actually the worst thing you can do. The most important thing is to realize your own DNA, your own purpose, your own sense of like, why do you even exist, you know? And from that, develop your values. So to answer the question, we help organizations create this foundational layer of what a culture could mean in a sustainable way. So helping to define their values, their higher purpose, and get everyone aligned on it, and actually define behaviors out of those values, so we can actually, you know, make sure people are accountable for it and actually measured by it. So it's a big thing for us to be able to say, you know, we want to benchmark stuff so we can actually correlate happiness and productivity of your employees to that of real ROI, like you were talking about earlier, like retention and recruiting, like things like that we know that happiness helps productivity and creativity. So that's pretty much what we do.
And what are some of the statistics of how happiness and how the tracking of measuring the increase in overall happiness has helped people in terms of productivity and success?
So big ones are, and it's really interesting because what we found, especially in the last 6 years that we've been doing it, regardless of industry and regardless of size, and now as you mentioned, we're doing it in government as well, and hospitals, by creating this sense of happiness and positivity in the workforce, you can have as much as 55% improvement in retention, 22 to 30% in profitability, creativity and innovation up from 100 to 300%. So it's just, you know, it's like naysayers can't say nay anymore, because even if you say, you know, there's a lot of people say, come on, happiness, because it's like, thinking it's rainbows and unicorns, but that's not what it's all about. It's kind of going to a very deeper level of who we are as individuals, like, and aligning that, like who we are with our purpose, our sense of values, and being able to align that of a company. Because that when you have that alignment, that's when the productivity and engagement and real results happen.
Well, to get rid of like the mystery of it, what is the curriculum or the ideas or the concepts of delivering happiness?
Yeah, so we have pretty basic frameworks. We would try to simplify things. So taking lessons learned from Zappos and pooling the science of happiness and positive psychology. So one framework is like the what paradigm. And so if you could imagine a pyramid, on the bottom is the foundation of culture and values, and then behaviors as you define it. The middle layer is what we put the science in. So how do you increase senses of progress? How do you increase senses of control? How do you increase connectedness, just like, meaningful relationships at work? And then ultimately at the very top of the pyramid is purpose. And so using this paradigm, we're able to create programs and basically programs to be able to implement this as, okay, how do we, if a company, as an example, wants to improve their leadership abilities or communication, this is where that framework comes in, and we actually create modules and programs that we roll out to the whole organization. So that's the what model. And then the who model is like basically concentric circles. It's me, we, and community. And so we all start with ourselves because, we have it's only us that can decide whether or not we're happy or think positively. Then it extends to the we, which is a team interaction or department or whole company. And then community is your customers, anyone in your ecosystem, and partners, et cetera. So again, it's all about aligning those things and creating programs to launch around that.
I like that, me, we, and community. Yeah. It sounds like a good rhyme for a hip hop music video.
Yeah, you should use it.
I might. That sounds cool. It sounds like, because you guys are unconventional coaches, you guys actually not just say coach, but you actually will dive into the leadership of the organization and actually tinker with it a bit, right?
Yeah, for sure. Because if you don't do it, it doesn't work. And what's great is that we're not force feeding anyone all this stuff. Like they come to us because they get it, and more so, culture is kind of a buzzword now, but it's been around for so long. Like we launched it at Zappos like 15 years ago. So what's so important is that being able to create that mindset where you're committed to this idea that your basic business strategies and outcomes and objectives needs to be coupled together with the culture. They have to be hand in hand for it to work. And that's what we help do. We help align the organization to be able to say, from the CEO all the way down to like the frontline or receptionist or whoever, are all aligned by that sense that culture and business go hand in hand.
One of the things that you said earlier was how each company has to have its own DNA. And it reminds me of an exercise that Tony had us do about 10 years ago, because I went down to Zappos and I had my board with me, including my chief marketing officer at the time, my chief human resource officer, and we were talking to Zappos University about some of the things we were doing in terms of our culture. And he has to do this exercise where each person in the room had to write down 3 nouns that they thought represented our company. And his thing was that he wanted to prove that each person, all of us, wrote completely different nouns describing our company. So we had to clarify that vision and mission of what the company was. But I love that exercise, and I say that all the time to people because I thought it was really interesting. I'm curious what other exercises or interactive activities that you guys will have for leadership in other organizations.
Yeah, it's actually very similar to one I was going to talk about, which is we try to keep things fun. I mean, we're called Delivering Happiness, but we also want to make it really experiential. And it is very interesting, no matter how you tight leadership team think they are, when you get everything out, it's always going to be different. That's where the alignment comes in. So we have an exercise called Culture is Your Animal. So basically, if your culture is an animal presently today, what would that be? And what would be the characteristics of that? And same thing for if, the future, what do you want it to be? And then you kind of get it all out there in terms of all the leadership team or whoever your stakeholders are. And then that's when we actually start seeing an accurate depiction of the reality of today and where you need to go. And then that's where the programs come in place with what's that gap, analyze that gap, and launch in terms of how you're going to get there.
Cool. Now, one of the things I think you called yourself was what, a consultant?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So when I think about coaching, I think about Well, I think consulting and coaching in very unique ways, because how I view consulting is I think about the projects that we had to do in our MBA program, where we had to be management consultants for people, and we basically just went in there, elicited a bunch of questions, and gave the other person advice. And when I think about coaching, I think about what we do in terms of real social dynamics. We're actually going out in field with our customers and being their wingman and actually interacting with people and enhancing your life that way, but actually seeing them involved. When I think of a consultant, I guess, the image that I have in my head is this kind of like a combination idea. So are you actually not just like teaching like a professor, but actually interacting with the various people in the organization and actually coaching each of them directly while they're actually living their lives and doing their...
Exactly, you got it. But I don't know, we came up with the term probably a few years ago now, because it just seems so appropriate, because we weren't like, like you're saying, as consultants, we come in, I did this all the time for many years, we just kind of like get all the data, analyze it, come up with recommendations, and then it's basically a huge PowerPoint that you give over, like hand over, and it's kind of, there's no accountability there. And so it doesn't really work. It works sometimes, but I think the percentage is like 80% or 85% of those kind of projects fail. So having learned that lesson, we decided to be coach consultants in the sense that coaching is actually getting in, and it's also, it's very natural for a topic like happiness to have a coach, not like a life coach, but basically from a business perspective, how do you able to co-create this together? Because otherwise, again, it's not going to work if we tell them this is your culture, and if they don't have ownership of it, then it's just going to fizzle away over time, which is where what I said earlier about where commitment is so important.
So this is super exciting to me, because my goal was, when I originally created this YouTube channel, was just to do it for fun and kind of like share my ideas, but then turn it into this mission where I want to go infield into businesses and do things. For example, Elliot Bisnow from Summit Series, and his father has a real estate company called Bisnow. And so what we did is we went and we gave advice, kind of like a consultant, but we actually coached, kind of like a coach. So I guess we're coach consultants, because what we did was we then went to a convention, and we pretended we worked for Bisnow, and we actually pretended we were sales reps. And we went with these real sales reps, and we had them approach people, and then we would be their wingman, and we would try to get them to buy advertising from Elliot's father's company, Mark Bisnow's company. It's a really awesome company, but I guess I love the idea of expanding upon it, but I didn't know anyone else that was actually going infield in the companies doing that. I had no idea you guys were doing that. So I'm curious, are you actually just going during, like, say it's 9 to 5, and I'm at a company, and you'll walk into their office, and what will you do? Like, how are you being the coach for people? I could see you doing the large scale seminars, but how are you actually doing the coach work? You're actually going in the field into the organization and interacting with people that are working there.
So we typically try to keep it to as like these stakeholders, that tight-knit group that we know that will eventually, take this information and take these frameworks and actually implement it. So we're big on keeping that team, call it a culture team. So you have your stakeholders, you have ideally your C-level team, but then also people that are naturally really passionate about this idea of culture. So we round up that group first, and this is the key to scaling too. So we round up that group first, take a survey to benchmark where they're at, take a snapshot, and then do a lot of qualitative and quantitative interviews and synthesize what that means, and be able to come up with the ideas of these are the things that are going well and these are the things that are not going well, and basically say celebrate these wins, but these are the things that we need to work on. So at that point, we're constantly training this core team, culture team, to be able to eventually train the trainer, coach the coach across the organization. So if you keep it tight-knit first, establish those foundations, whatever the values are, behaviors, etc., and whatever programs or things you want to run around communication, whatever your challenge points are. And then they actually take this and, for example, we're doing this for a 55,000 hospital consortium in New York.
Wow.
So they rolled that it was amazing. You think about healthcare, you would think it would take forever if even it would happen. But we actually were able to do it within 1 year, because they were so intense at the beginning of we need to get it done now. And so we're awesome. And so it took us about 3 months to create that foundational and then relaunched the whole culture program and values and purpose. And then from there, for the rest of the year, they were able to scale it across all the 30 hospitals, 300 leaders. Healthcare is a pretty bureaucratic place. But yeah, it's so this is how we go in the trenches. It's kind of like what you were saying earlier. Like, we like to be the BFF, in the process, like lean on us or ping us for questions along the way, and then it becomes a lifetime journey together, which is what we love seeing.
I know that my audience really would love to just hear also some of the things that you talk about to your customers in terms of building those relationships and making them more powerful, and the interactions. 'Cause I mean, networking is like a huge topic for my audience, and I would love to hear about what you're doing for an organization to make the relationships in that organization better, stickier, and the networking to work more powerfully.
Within the organization, you mean? Yeah. So that's a huge component of Signs of Happiness, and basically one of the most sustainable ways to do it is not only just have a higher purpose that everyone can be inspired by, beyond making money, profits, what else can you be inspired by? But the next most sustainable thing is the meaningful relationship stuff. So to basically create a foundation and an environment where that's very conducive to create those meaningful relationships, our biggest thing is helping them be able to roll something out where everyone gets to feel authentic, being true to themselves. So as an example, like one of our core values is like a core value, be true to your weird self. That's
a famous one.
Yeah.
Because I remember for Zappos, you guys had that crossword puzzle that you would have people do on an application, and a bunch of other various things.
So being true to your weird self is so instrumental to start that ability to create those meaningful relationships, because if you can't be yourself at work, how do you think you can, there's no way you can derive the real meaning out of it. So when you create that environment first, and then actually encourage people to bring their passions to work. So whatever that might be, it could be golf or, painting, photography, and then you have these meaningful, authentic interactions around people, like, hey, you going golfing this weekend? I'd love to come with my buddies. And then, so all of a sudden, they're doing it on their own organically. It doesn't feel imposed from top down, and you have an amazing time during the weekend. And then, most importantly, come Monday, all of a sudden that meaningful relationship has started. That connectedness is increasing, is augmenting itself. And so all of a sudden they're more communicative with each other. They're more productive. They're more engaged. They want to show up to work because I'm hanging out with my buddy now. It's not just my colleague. And studies show that people want to work harder, make more sacrifices in a positive way for people that they have a real connection with versus my boss or my colleague.
Well, I could totally see that same culture working from getting a habit of just doing it internally with the organization. Now I could see them kind of everyone in an organization is kind of like a representation of the organization that they're involved with. So I could totally see them now spreading those kind of I guess that personality to other people, that mindset of offering value and connecting to other people and delivering happiness, not just within an organization, but then to other people.
Right. That's actually, the whole model about me, we community. So it starts, it starts with a person and they increase their happiness. But then that, because you have a happier employee, their interaction with the customer will be that much more authentic and sincere, and just when you can tell when you walk into a company or a store or the whole calling Zappos, and it feels like you're talking to a friend. So in that sense, that's how it extends in terms of how it'll affect your bottom line, why people and customers will be more loyal, and why they'll word of mouth talk about your company versus others. But yeah, that's where it stems from.
Makes sense, because both you and Tony are very authentic people that people would just relate to and talk to. And I think that's what allows people to really connect with you. And then by people really getting to know you, I feel like everyone kind of feels your whole organization, people know it as well. I'm also curious about how you guys are able to build those relationships even after the initial coaching, and how long does the relationship continue, and how are you able to track and kind of measure in an objective way the successes that they have?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's something that It's actually evolving all the time because, I mean, relatively new fields that we're in terms of what's being measured and how, but it's like, it's actually matured a lot. So what's been really cool is that, like I said earlier, we like to be the BFF in sense like they'll roll out the program. So let's do the foundational work first, and that, like, let's say it's 3 months. They roll out the program, and then we see the results. So it's kind of like a rinse, wash, repeat cycle. Okay. So yeah, roll it out, live it, and then take another snapshot. And that's when we start seeing like what things improved or what things went wayward. So that's one way we start measuring things. And then once they roll it out, they also come back to us because then they see, oh, there was a gap here. As an example, one of our clients in New York is a department store. They said that, oh, we realized, like, we really love our values, but there's one that's missing that we need to either add or, like, how do we infuse? So now that's why they gave us a call back and said, come back again, help us figure out what this program is and help us roll it out. So in terms of metrics, what we're doing now is basically everyone's always thinking about the customer life cycle. What's the lifetime value of a customer? Excuse me. So now we're talking about what's the lifetime value of an employee. So if you think about that life cycle of an employee coming in, recruiting, training, and then usually, hopefully, the tenure will continue as long as it can, assuming it's a good employee. So there's training, management, and ultimately culture that will sustain, or whether that person chooses to stay. So if you take each of those elements of first recruiting, like how much does it take to recruit people right now, and then compare it to when you have a great culture, how much does that change? As an example, one of our clients in Turkey just sent me this long email because he took one of our boot camps 10 months ago, and he's just saying, I can't believe all these things happened since. And one of the things was, instead of getting 20 to 30 applicants for a sales job in a month, he got 300 in like a week after implementing these culture things. So that's when you can start calculating the ROI. Like, it used to take us so long and how much money to get one candidate, one solid recruit, versus now it takes us like 50% of what we spent before.
That's cool. So you guys offer boot camps kind of like us. What are these services that you guys and products you provide? It's like boot camps and long-term coaching, mentoring programs, or immersion programs, seminars.
So we do the speaking stuff, so delivering keynotes to conferences and specific clients. Then we have these workshops, so we have a 3-day boot camp, and then the other ones we call like the longer coach consulting engagements. They basically go the lifetime of the relationship. So.
And then what are some of the things that you're looking for in order to like choose like the right clients that you guys want to work with?
Yeah, that's a great question, because happiness is not for everyone. Like, we're not here to twist someone's arm and say, hey, you gotta be happy. It's not gonna work. It has to be really intentional, and I go back to that word all the time, but it's really the number one pitfall or downfall of companies is commitment. And when you can tell when you start talking and actually drilling deeper into what this person's thinking, and whether or not they're just wanting to launch a culture program because it's like the cool thing to do, or they're saying, like, we know this is like pivotal for us, and we know that we're gonna do it forever. That's the different mindsets of that is pretty clear once you start having a conversation. So those are the ideal ones, and it's been so interesting because we haven't seen a consistency, because everyone's like, oh, is like tech much more interested in this because like they're more innovative and creative, and we haven't found that at all. It's not the demographics we found, it's the psychographic. And if you're able to once you have that mindset and commitment, those are the ideal clients. And then you see the change happen so quickly too. Like this hospital thing was crazy, and the department store, and then Dubai. So we've been at Dubai for 1.5 years, and I don't know, like a few months ago that you noticed the Prime Minister actually announced happiness of in the cabinet, Minister of Happiness. That was like 6 months ago or something. So awesome. It's pretty cool is to see how this is spreading in a way that, because the Prime Minister is so committed, now it's kind of like he wants to scale it across the whole government and their citizens.
I remember when Tony was launching the Downtown Project, there was this one book that kind of inspired everything. Was there like a book or a program that kind of inspired? I mean, there was Tony's book.
Yeah. Well, there's one called Delivering Happiness, but
yeah. But was
anything else?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if there was one. Let's see. I guess along the way, we read Lean Startup as part of like our required reading. I guess there was books like, along the way. So Lean Startup was one at the beginning, and then Reinventing Organizations was actually a pretty pivotal one that we read, when it came out. And that's one of the reasons why Tony decided to do Holacracy. And for us, we're actually doing our own form of self-management, self-organization. We call it H2O. So it's just our own version of it. So I think maybe those probably are pivotal books for us in terms of like changing the way we do things internally, and therefore changing the way we, coach salts in terms of, hey, we learn from ourselves and then are able to share the lessons learned outwardly.
Well, I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
I love the idea and concept of, learning from taking action and getting involved with organizations. And it's really cool to have you here because your organization and experience is coming from an organization that had a massive success. You guys, I remember you guys used to have culture books, and then we actually were trying to model you, and we created culture books and a culture book newsletter where we would take all the, because your culture book was full of quotes of all the Zappos employees, and we started doing quotes from all of our employees, and we started doing that.
Nice.
We stopped doing it because some of them got really personal, and then some people were just leaking everything to other people, and it was in an email format, so it's super easy to like forward it. But it was a huge inspiration, like the books that you guys created. I don't remember the name of her, but she was the HR director for Zappos.
Okay.
And 10 years ago, we went into Zappos and we had this book list. And you have like a bunch of books here too, but I mean, we walked away with a van full of boxes of books to give to all the people that worked in the organization from Zappos University, because they had all these books that it was before you guys had like a formal Zappos tour where you have like a book and everyone take a book out. And I thought that was really interesting.
That's cool. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, we've got a lot of people emailing us saying that they were inspired to do their own culture book, and so now they're coming in all different flavors, and it's really cool to see around the world and how it actually works. Like another client just said, like after they did it for the first time, they didn't realize like a physical book would make such a big difference, just not only for their employees because they're seeing their own words in print, but also for new recruits. Like they just give them a book and all of a sudden like they stand out so much more than the competitors because this day and age everyone's expecting a solid culture. Everyone's expecting that they're going to be happy at this place. And so it's weird how this book actually can help that.
That's cool. I think it's interesting also how Zappos has this weirdness as like a value, a core value. For our organization, it's kind of like our organization feels more like kind of like a corporate fraternity. But the corporate aspect is not as like a dirty like frat house kind of style. Yet a lot of the guys kind of have that anyway.
Right.
But it's really interesting to analyze the culture, because until I met Tony, I never really thought about the corporate culture of our company, or even how to define it. But then afterwards, it kind of spread, and then
that's cool.
I love how you guys are teaching that now to organizations so they can define their own culture. I think that's super important for organizations to find their own culture.
Yeah, cool.
Thanks so much. This has been awesome.
Yeah, same here. Thank you. That was
cheers.
Cool. Cheers. Let's go play some golf.
If you enjoyed today's video, please subscribe to my channel. Write your comments below because I'd love to hear what you thought about the interview. And definitely check out Delivering Happiness because it is an awesome book, awesome organization, and it is just overall awesome.